Venture. So actually, he has a renowned expertise in fundraising, wealth management, building high performance team, and in developing innovative ideas. He is a trained executive from Harvard Business School and a visionary mentor leading many business startups and guidance business leaders. So yeah, this was the short bio of him. So now if you want, like you can dive into the session if you want, like if possible, if we can wait for 2 to 3 more minutes to like let the people join in.
Sure, let us wait 2 to 3 more minutes. Till that time, I will just share my. Uh, okay, somebody else is sharing the screen. I think MFL handle is sharing the
Yeah,
screen.
so let me stop sharing the scene. So yeah, here you go, sir.
Okay, so I will just share my screen and uh, also I will, till the time others are joining, I will give a brief background about myself so that there is some time when others can join. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Are you able to see the screen? How to raise funds? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically, I am from the venture capital background. I did my engineering and MBA finance from University of Delhi and did my executive education from Harvard Business School. My company is Consultancy Ventures. We are closely related to 350 investors in India and abroad. Uh, in my corporate life, I've worked for Deloitte and Touche, which is Big Four auditing firm. I was part of the private equity practice, and I've also been part of the team at Brand Capital, which is Times of India's venture arm, which invests in companies. And then I was heading treasury with MTS India. It is the unit of Russia's largest telecom company, Sistema, which is listed on the London Stock Exchange. And I was CFO of Distribution Logistics. That's a company owned by Guggenheim Partners, the American private equity fund. Uh, I'm a venture advisor with Loyal VC. It's a Canadian VC fund which is led by two founders from INSEAD. They have invested in more than 200 companies right now across 35 countries. I'm also a partner with GSD Venture Studios, which is a Silicon Valley based venture builder. Over the years, past 5 years, 6 years, I've arranged funding for startups and growth stage companies in sectors like education technology, fintech, agri-tech, deep tech, machine learning, artificial intelligence. And my expert opinion is sought by leading business news channels like CNN News 18, VCTV, Business World, Digital Market Asia, and so on. You can search my name on YouTube. You will see the videos. And you can also go to the website of Venture Capital TV, which is latopen.com/VCTV. And you can see some of my videos on the corporate website, consultancy.com. So today I will be talking about uh, venture capital, why venture capital is important, and also uh, how to arrange venture capital, how can you get venture capital in case you are an entrepreneur, what are the things you have to keep in mind, and then after the presentation, I will be happy to take questions from you on this subject. So the first thing, uh, what I will do is just a moment. Uh, okay, let me start now by telling you a bit about venture capital. So, apart from doing a salary or doing a business, one way in which you can earn money is by investing the money. So, making money through money. And the different investment options which are available to anyone to make money, it's called investing in asset classes. We invest in asset classes and they give us a return. So we invest in fixed deposits, FD of a bank. It is the most, it is the safest kind of investment. And but the return which we get is very less. It is hardly 4.5% in India post tax. If you are investing abroad in US, Europe, and Japan, the return which you get, annualized return, is 0.5%, which is hardly anything. So the safest investment options don't give you good return. They ensure safety of your investment, but when it comes to getting a return, then you will get the return over a long period because the company is safe and it will grow slowly. But if you are investing in risky assets, they tend to uh, rise a lot and they tend to fall a lot also. They are risky, but many people want to make returns on those stocks. So the first option, which is there for anyone who wants to earn money through money, is stock markets. So you can invest in small caps, which are penny stocks. You can invest in mid caps or you can invest in large caps. Large caps are companies like Reliance and HDFC, and small caps are penny stocks, 1 rupee stock, 2 rupee stock. There are a huge number of options available in the stock market. But when you are buying a stock, you are essentially buying a piece of a business because those shares are owned, the shares represent a business. So there is an inherent value in what you are buying. Similarly, if you are buying a commodity on a commodity exchange, you are buying oil, zinc, aluminum, copper, iron, gold, silver, then you are buying a commodity which has some practical use. It has value. So, the value of that particular commodity might rise or fall, but end of the day, it represents a value. The third option is betting on currencies. You can bet on US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, and so on. And the fourth option is real estate. You can invest money in property, and that money can give you returns. Now, the main thing is uh, the new asset class which has come in the market is cryptocurrency. It is a number on the screen. It is not a currency, although it is called cryptocurrency. The underlying technology of cryptocurrency is blockchain. Blockchain means that your data resides in distributed ledgers, hence, it cannot be changed. So it maintains legacy information of the entire transactions which happen. So blockchain has many uses as a technology, but when it comes to cryptocurrency, mainly it is used for betting, and it is also used for transferring money from one country to the other, because these wallets can be used to transfer cryptocurrencies across the border also. But the problems governments have with this kind of cross-border money transfer is that it can be used for money laundering. So suspicious people, terrorists, they can also transfer money cross-border. So that is a risk which cryptocurrency represents for countries, specifically high-risk countries, which are prone to terrorism and money laundering. Uh, as an asset class, crypto is very volatile. It depends a lot on news. So some bad news comes, it falls 30%. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, any cryptocurrency can fall 30%, 40%. And if a good news comes, like Elon Musk keeps on tweeting about Dogecoin. So when that good news comes, in the form of a tweet by Elon Musk, it rises 20%, it rises 10%. So it is very news driven because cryptocurrency does not have an inherent value. What you are buying is a number on the screen. Offline, it doesn't have any value. So that is why it is very volatile. People sell it and buy it on news. Now, one of the other asset classes which uh, people invest is venture capital. There are venture capital funds who take money from investors and they deploy the money across startups and asset classes, and they generate a return. They cut a commission from the return, and they give rest of the money back to the investor. So the amount of money which fund guys charge for managing the investor's wealth is called carry. So suppose in five investors give $100 million to a fund. This $100 million is called asset under management, AUM. This Out of this $100 million, the fund guys will deduct 1.5% every year, $1.5 million every year for managing their office, salaries, electricity, legal, for auditing, accounting. And once they make an investment and take an exit from any investment, they will deduct 20% of the capital gain, of the profit which they made on that investment. And they distribute the rest of the money back to the investors. Investors in a VC fund are called LPs, limited partners. And those fund guys who manage the money, who invest the money, they are called GPs, general partners. Now, if you want to create a startup today, what should you keep in mind? You should keep in mind that the fund guy is managing somebody else's money and he has to generate a return. So he will be very cautious with that money. And when he will be cautious with that money, he will invest it after a lot of thought. So, what are the things an investor looks when they invest the money, when they give you their investment in your startup? I will take you to these points. Uh, yeah. So, this is the information needed by investors when they evaluate whether to invest or not in the business. The first thing is they want to see what problem statement you are solving. So you will be solving a problem faced by human beings. It can be luxury problem. It can be some issue like finding a taxi, which Uber solved, like getting groceries in the house, which Big Basket solved, like trading on the stock markets at a low fee, paying less fee to the exchange, not to the exchange, to uh, the trader, the stock trader. So Zerodha solved that problem. And ordering food at home, Zomato, Swiggy, ordering things at home, Amazon and Flipkart. And one common thread which you would have seen from all these examples which I have given you is the use of technology and the smartphone. So if you are using technology and a smartphone for solving the problem statement, investors like it a lot because it is very scalable. There are huge number of smartphones in the hands of people nowadays, and it is a very sticky instrument, the smartphone. Just a minute. I'll just have some water. Uh, how do I switch off my video? Just a minute. Okay. Uh, yeah. So we were on this slide. So these are the things which investors look for when they are deciding whether to invest in your company or not. I will cover each of these points one by one, and then I will open the discussion for any questions from your end. Problem statement. As we discussed just now, what is the problem faced by human beings which you are solving? Solution means how will you solve that? So you might be solving it by using technology, or you might be solving it by the way of some innovation. You have to disrupt the existing market. Your solution should be disruptive. So there are existing players who are already there in the market. They are used to doing business in a certain way. So you have to present a more efficient way of doing that business, so that business comes to you rather than coming to them. And if you are using technology, then uh, technology has been disrupting the businesses since 1999. So the world is very much used to technology disrupting businesses, and hence investors uh, are are happier to put money in technology oriented solutions. Then the team behind is very important. The single founder companies many investors don't like. So they want the team to have two or three co-founders, and the balance of the team, including CXOs, including vice presidents, the balance of the top management with having all the kind of knowledge, like product people, marketing people, technology people, finance people. And there is a book which is very popular nowadays. It says that generalists rule the world. Instead of specialists, generalists rule the world. So people who understand a bit about everything of the business, they understand how to, what kind of technology is going in my product, what is the marketing which I need to do for the product, how will this marketing happen, what is the HR which my company is using, and they should be understanding a bit about everything, and that is why they are generalists, they are not specialists. The next is market size and opportunity. If your company, your startup is into a field which has a very small market size, then of course the revenue of the company in the future won't be too much. Maybe you will capture 50% of the market, but still your turnover will be less. So naturally, if your turnover will be less, the operating profit will also be less. And because these two will be less, so the valuation of the company will also be less. So the investors are very much bothered about the market size and opportunity. Next is product. You can give a demo of your product to the investor. The product explains what is it you are selling. Is it a service product? Uh, is it a normal product, or is it a service which you are selling? What is it? You can show pictures, videos, you can give a demo. It can be a software, it can be a SaaS product, software as a service product. And after the product, what is more important for the investor is the business model. The business model means that how is your product or service making money whether it is commission-based model, whether it is monthly or yearly subscription, apart from the pricing and revenue streams, also what are the sales channels? Is it a direct sales channel? It's a distributor-led sales channel and so on. Then the next thing is traction. Traction means your revenue growth, your customer growth, your vendor and partners growth. What is your growth, financial and non-financial as of now? What is the turnover you're doing? What is the operating profit you're doing? How much money have you put in the company? What's your monthly cash burn? How much cash are you burning? So that is the traction. It is very important because a lot of companies come to me which say that the traction is hardly there. They are pre-revenue companies. But the investor says, if you are not showing with the revenue, then what is the proof that your product has a viable business model? Basically, 60% of startups close down because they created a product which does not have a market. Customers are not willing to pay for that product or service. 60% of startups close down because of that. So it is very important for you to have a good business model, a validated business model. So, when you start a startup, the first thing is proof of concept. After the proof of concept comes minimum viable product, MVP, which means that your product has a capacity to earn money. The third thing is PMF, product market fit, which means what are the sales channels, what are the distribution channels, what is the go-to market, what are the pricings of different kind of products you have come out with. So achieving all of that is called product market fit. Now, if you are not getting a traction in your business, then the investor will think that your PMF is not good, your product market fit is not good. Maybe you need to pivot your business model. You need to change your business model. Maybe you need to change the product. Maybe you need to change something about the way in which you are selling. But if you have a traction to show the investor, you have revenue, you have EBITDA, then of course the investor finds more confidence. Competitor analysis. Which is your competition? What is the business model of that competition? And if you are giving the names of competitors to your investor, then you also give competitive advantages. How is your product superior to that of competitors? You give the unique selling proposition, USP. So after competitive advantages, you have to show financial projections, which means in the next 5 years, how much money you will invest or the investor will invest. How will this money improve your top line? Top line means revenue or turnover. How will this investment bring in profitability? In how many years will you achieve break even? What will be your turnover in the next 5 years? Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. So you have to give financial projections of your business to the investor. Then you have to tell him how much funds you are asking for. If you're asking for 10 crores, tell him both in dollars and also in INR. And yeah, sorry. Sorry. Yeah. And if, once you tell how much funds you are looking for, then you have to tell how will you use the funds, the use of the funds. How much money will go into marketing? How much money will go into team building, how much will go into technology, how much will go into opening new offices. And if your PMF is there and your product is ready, then it just needs to scale. So it needs marketing money. If you are a consumer B2B and consumer B2C company, or a direct to consumer company, D2C company, the fund guy will happily give you marketing dollars, because they will see that this product just needs to scale. It just needs to sell much. And the more it sells, the better will be the valuation of the company. And the more return will be made by the investor. And then future roadmap, which means non-financial numbers. So you can say that in the next 3 months, I will attain 20,000 customers. In the next 6 months, I will attain 1 lakh customers. I will open 3 new offices after 10 months from now. My team size will be 100 in 8 months from now. So you have to give a roadmap as to how your business will pan out and what are your goals, and the timeline against those goals. So this is all which the investor asks for. I am happy to take your questions, and I'm happy to provide you more information. I will request all of you uh, to see my LinkedIn on the chat and join me on LinkedIn, and also see my corporate website, consultancy.com. And I've also given my email, tk@consultancy.com. And I can be contacted on my email, on my LinkedIn. And right now, I will take your questions now. Okay. Jose says, sir, how to connect to a VC? Jose, if you have a startup, the investor would like to build a connection with you, because if he invests his money in your startup, it is a kind of a partnership, and a partnership which will go on for long. It will go on for maybe 5 years, 8 years. So the investor needs a lot of conviction to invest money, and he needs a lot of trust that you won't spoil his money. You won't, there are some African startups which came to me. They got the money, and these guys have no financial sense. So they bought Mercedes, BMWs from that money for the office. So, what I'm trying to say here is that, see, you will be bound by the term sheet issued by the investor. The term sheet will have a lot of clauses. And so, if you have to search for a venture capital fund, you attend the events in which they are speaking. Once you attend the events, you exchange visiting cards. Then you connect with them on LinkedIn. And then you remind them that you had met them you write to them on email saying that you had met them. The other way is to find their investee companies. And once you find their investee companies, you tell the founder of the investee company to introduce you to the investor. So the founder of the investee company will put in a word, and you will get your meeting with the investor. So cold calling, cold emails do not work that much. But if you make a connection with them, have a 15-minute talk, and then keep a phone call later on, that works much better. And if their investee company can recommend you for a call or a meeting, that works even also better. Otherwise, you just use LinkedIn. But when you are using LinkedIn, when you are sending a connect request, send a personalized invite, send a small note as to why you want to connect, so that the time of the investor is not wasted. Then, uh, okay, Siddhant Vashisht asks, who are angel investors and how they are important? Siddhant, everybody who invests money in startups and unlisted companies like startups are called angel investors. Nowadays, because of so much of venture capital funding happening, a lot of people, industrialist families, housewives of industrialist families, CXOs, corporate people, they all have turned investors. So they are called angel investors. Anybody can be an angel investor. So if you and me today decide to invest money in a startup, we would also be called angel investors. They're called angels because these startups, which are early stage, they face the maximum problem in arranging funding. So we help. I have interacted with more than 6,000 startups in the last 3 years, and we help startup founders get access to funding. And we are closely networked with a huge number of angel investors also. Okay. Thank you, Jose. Then Siddhant, okay, Yashasvi Vashisht. How to get seed funding in footwear startup? Consumer, see, India is a huge consumption economy. See, the GDP, gross domestic product, is comprised of three things: consumption, investments, and exports. Indian exports have only been increasing in the last 1 year. It is going from $300 billion to $400 billion every year. But the export growth has been traditionally slow. Investments in 2011 and 12, the government of that time told government banks to give huge loans. So these banks, government banks, they gave loans of 20 lakh crore. And you can imagine the way they had to give these loans because of politicians at that time. 12 lakh crore out of 20 lakh crore money did not come back to the banks. It is non-performing asset, NPA. So the lending capacity of banks is weak, especially to infrastructure, because infrastructure requires long-term debt. That is why investments have been traditionally slow in India in the last decade. Investment is slow, exports is growth is slow. But consumption, India is a huge consumer economy. If you have a footwear startup, you have to brand it better, create your own website and sell through it. It is called direct to consumer, D2C. D2C as a sector has matured in India. Till 2015, it was not matured. But now you have logistics companies, you have digital marketing companies, you have branding companies. So, bringing together a product and selling on the website, your own website, is so much easier nowadays. So if you have a footwear startup, we have access to huge number of consumer funds. You approach us on LinkedIn, we will help you in getting funding. Shiva, sir, how to get seed funding for gaming start? Approach me on LinkedIn. Gaming startups are very hot, and a lot of companies are putting money in gaming. We have done 2 gaming deals in the last 3 years, and I'm very proud of those deals. Those deals happened very nicely. Then next, uh, sir, what if all the funds lost and the company shut down? My friend, what's your name? Ayush. Ayush, when the investor invests, they assume that 7 out of the 10 companies they are putting in money will close down. So it is called a portfolio approach. They assume that out of the 10, 1 or 2 of the investments will rise so much that they will give the return. So, but if your startup shut down because you already tried a startup, you can open a new startup. Just open a new startup, tell the investor, I'm an experienced person. They will put in money again. Not a problem. Or you can join any new startup which is already funded. They will give you ESOPs, employee stock option plans. So once the valuation of that startups goes high, you can sell your ESOPs and make crores. A lot of people, they join funded startups. While pitching the investor, how do we calculate the valuation? Valuation of the company is calculated by 4-5 methodologies. My team does valuation. We create business plans, we create pitch deck, and we do the valuation. The most important methodology of doing a valuation for a startup is discounted cash flow. So you create a projection of the next 5 years of the business. Then you get an idea about the cash flows available to the business in the next 5 years. Then using the cost of capital, you bring down the value of these 5-year cash flows to today. That those 5-year cash flows, what is their value today? And that value is the value of the company. Okay. Siddhant Shinge, I have answered you. Ankit says, sir, how to make the company survive from the pre-existing companies which can provide the product at minimum price? Why do you assume that the pre-existing companies are efficient? They are not. They have been in the market since a long time, and many times they turn very complacent. They feel that they know everything. They feel that their product cannot be improved. So I'll give you an example. Look at Nokia. Nokia's phone used to be the hottest selling phone. And many people told them that uh, Steve Jobs is coming out with a smartphone. And the Nokia people, many people told them to change their operating system. Their operating system used to be from a company called Symbian. But Nokia never changed it. And once Steve Jobs came in with the iPhone, he disrupted the entire market hugely. Don't assume that these old companies who are competing in the market, they know everything. They don't. And many times most of the times they don't innovate on the products also. So if you are coming out with a superior product, you will break their market. Just believe in your product. Get proper secondary and primary research. Ankit, I have answered. Shiva, what are the documents? Document, the first thing is a pitch deck. A pitch deck is a 15-slide document. The second thing is a business plan. A business plan is a 25-page project report, which covers distribution strategies, go-to-market, and everything. So you require a pitch deck, you require a business plan. And the third thing is you can get the valuation done. Can I meet an investor before incorporating a company, or there is any procedure? Yes, we can take you to accelerators and incubators who can put in 15 to 25 lakhs, and you can open the company later. But my advice to you is that focus more on MVP, minimum viable product. Opening a company, it takes 5 days nowadays. It's not a very big thing. You can open it anytime. And when you are starting out, if you are really convinced about your business, then take money from friends and family. FNF. Okay, next question. Mm, thank you, Shiva. Yashasvi Vashishta, should I get my idea trademarked and patented? No, idea cannot be trademarked and patented, but if you have created a new product, new technology, or a new process or a new service, you can get it patented, uh, and you can get the intellectual property also for that product or service. In fact, Singapore is the world's number one economy which gives you money by taking your intellectual property as collateral. So if you have filed intellectual property and you have received the intellectual property number, you can give it to the Singaporean government as a collateral, and then they will give you funding against that. Uh, so definitely, and if you have an intellectual property, then the chances of getting money from the investor is much more. They will happily give you money. Siddharth Shringe, in the first round of funding, how much minimum and maximum percentage equity? The investor is not happy taking less than 10%. They want to take between 16 to 25%. But if it is an accelerator and incubator, they take equity between 3 to 8%. So accelerators and incubator take 3 to 8%. Uh, the first round investor takes between 16 to 25%. Then from PP, do crypto startups have scope in India? Indian government is not in favor of cryptos because it is a very speculative asset, and it is pure betting. And the moment the big holders of cryptocurrencies sitting in Dubai, in Hong Kong, not in Hong Kong, in US and UK, when they dump their cryptocurrencies, then the value of the cryptocurrency will fall like anything. And at that time, the holders of the cryptocurrency, they will all be in losses. And then they will be chasing the government that, help us out. We have made these losses. So that is why the governments are very against crypto in India, in China, and many countries. Tapishi Kaur, is it prudent to opt for currently budding technologies like quantum computing is the top one. Crypto is not a technology, but the underlying technology to crypto is blockchain, and it's a good technology. Although it is a slow technology, it takes time because all the records are stored and in distributed servers. So it takes time to use, when the blockchain is used. But it's a good technology. Quantum computing is top artificial intelligence, top machine learning, top robo technology, top uh, financial technology, top education technology, top agri-tech, top. All these are good places to build your career. Thank you, Ankit. Shubham says, I'm currently reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. One point mentioned is law, government intervention, and tax. What is your opinion about tax or law aspect on VC? See, if you are in a job, you are making salary, right? In India, on your salary which you make, you are giving 30% tax. In the US, you are giving 40% tax. In the UK, you are giving 45% tax. And if you work in the UK for more than 7 years, you are giving 55% tax. So if you are in a job, I have bad news for you. The taxes are very high. They will just take your huge chunk of your salary. But in Singapore, because it is a gateway to Asia, Singapore is a gateway to Asia. So the income tax there is only 15%. And the income tax in Dubai, UAE is zero. So if you want to be in the salaried field, you want to do a job throughout your life, work in Dubai or Singapore. Singapore, you will pay 15%. Dubai, you will pay 0%. But the cost of living in both Dubai and Singapore is very high. Very high cost of living. So if your job goes in Singapore, most of the times the people have to come back to India because they are not able to sustain the living cost there. Very high apartment rents, food costly, car, it costs 40 to 50 lakhs starting price of a car in Singapore. Dubai, housing very costly, maid very costly, uh, food costly. Car is cheap in Dubai because it's an oil producing country. So the car which costs you 20 lakhs, you can buy in Dubai for 8 lakhs. So what was your question? I'm sorry, I have to read your question again. Okay, you're okay. Rich dad, poor dad. About tax or law. Uh, but if you are making money by investing the money, if you are investor, then the tax which applies to you is capital gains tax. You will be surprised to know that the capital gains tax in Singapore is zero. If you are making money through investments in stock markets and startups and commodities and forex, you don't pay any tax. In the US, it is only 10 to 20%. In India, it is also 10 to 20%. So who earns money by investing the money? The rich people. So everybody wants to make the rich people happy, all the countries. So they have kept capital gains tax so low, 10 to 20%. But for a job guy, 45%, 40%. So they are discouraging you from doing a job. They are saying you invest the money and then earn. Invest it in stock markets, invest it in real estate, invest it. They want you to invest the money, not to keep the money as a saving in a fixed deposit, because there is hardly any return you get from that, right? You are also saying the aspect of law. So, contract enforcement in India is very weak. Our courts are full. It takes years and years to get a case solved. So, what rich companies, big companies, what they do when they're operating in India, in their contracts which they sign, the jurisdiction of the contract, that which court will be used in case there is a fight on the contract. They mention Singapore, arbitration in Singapore, or they mention International Court of Arbitration in UK. They don't mention Indian law because India, the courts are useless. 9 years, 10 years, 20 years, they don't work. So that is the law situation, and tax I already told you. Then, okay. Now, what is Startup India? So the government of India in 2014, when this new government came in, they started Department of Promotion of Industry and Trade, DPIT, and then they opened up a huge number of things like Startup India, Stand Up India, Invest India, and they have been promoting the startups in a very big way. And Startup India, if you register your company for Startup India, you get a lot of help from the Startup India people. And one of the big help you get if you manage to get a certificate of exemption from Startup India, then for the first 3 years of your startup, you don't have to pay tax. But getting that certificate, every startup does not get that certificate. There are 50,000 startups registered in Startup India. Around 1,500 startups have that certificate. So you have to show to the Startup India people that you are creating something new, some new technology, something which is very new, some new intellectual property. Then they give you that certificate. Okay. Siddhant Vashish, I have answered. Prateek Pradhan, what is the process of interning at a VC? My uh, I hate to give you sad news, but there is a sad news there that most of the people who are working in VCs are from Ivy League colleges: INSEAD, MIT, Stanford, Purdue, Harvard, IIT, IIM, ISB. So what they do is that they help their alumni. So they would take interns uh, from Ivy League colleges. But if you have a good relationship with the GP or an LP, if you have a good relationship, they will take you for the intern. That's not a problem. Recently, I saw this guy who has a podcast. He was interning with K Capital in Mumbai. So his father knew somebody who knew Sasha Mirchandani, the K Capital's head. And so they just put in a word and they interned. Uh, but I'm sorry to say that if you are from Ivy League college, then you have more chances of. The other way is that instead of these Ivy League degrees, you can do CFA. CFA from the US entity, not from the Indian ICFI entity. From the US entity, if you do a CFA, they will take you. CFA is very well reputed amongst VC funds. Then the next is process of interning, how to connect with PE or VC career in those domains. As I told you, you have to know number crunching. So you have to have an Ivy League degree or you do CFA. Then you can have a career in private equity or VC. Siddhant, does the investor lock some period to take subsequent funding? So many of the investors, they keep money for follow-on funding. See, the startup raises funds, then it burns the cash. And in the next round, they are facing a problem. So if the first investor says your new round is $2 million, I give you a hard commitment that I will put in $1 million. Then the startup goes to the market and says, I already have hard commitment of $1 million out of the round of $2 million. So naturally, a lot of people will put in their money because he has a hard commitment. So that is why some funds, a large number of funds, they keep money for follow-on investing in their investee company. Aman says, how to negotiate with VC for company share percentage. Approach me on LinkedIn, I will tell you, but we do the negotiation. But mostly, once you are sure about the valuation, then you can, in the first round, don't dilute more than 16 to 25%. In the second round, between 12 to 15%. In the third round, between 6 to 7%. And then in future rounds, 4 to 5%. This is the thumb rule which we follow. First is pre-seed, then seed, then pre-series A, then series A, series B, series C, series D, and so on. So in the first round, don't dilute more than 16 to 25%. That's the thumb rule. Why some accelerators like Y Combinator look for co-founder? See, one founder cannot be a magic, right? That one founder will do everything. So naturally, they are very, they want to have at least 2 to 3 co-founders. And Y Combinator is very fast. They will give you 10 minutes on the stage. In the 10 minutes, the investors are supposed to hear you, and then they write checks after the 10 minutes. So Y Combinator is very fast. How to contact you directly? I have given you my email. Just write me a mail. I'll put the mail again here, and I'll also give you my LinkedIn. Once you write me the mail, I will give you my numbers, and also write why you want to contact. Mhm. Sudhi Kumari says, what's the right age to do investment? There is no right age. All these startup founders who have become big, their startups have become big, they are investing further on from their own pockets. There is no right age. Shubham Deshmukh says, thank you very much. Thank you, Shubham. Uh, Sudhi Kumari says, what is the right age for investment? Siddharth Shinge says, e-commerce company is 8 months old and it is profitable. Am I eligible to take funding? Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. 8 months does not matter. You are very much eligible to take funding. Yeah. Tan Sharma, Tusharji, how useful it is for startups to be associated with incubators and accelerators. So the incubator and accelerator should be offering you something substantial. They have co-working spaces, they have Wi-Fi, they have legal support, CA support, CS support. They have cloud service, Amazon Web Server, or Microsoft or Google. And apart from that, they do these programs. So some of them do 16-month program, some of them do 16 weeks program. So some of them do 10 weeks program. So they call people from the industry who address you, who answer your questions, and they give you contacts also for building your business. So just approach me. I will answer you offline. Okay, please give the feedback. It is very important. MFL has put the link there, and you can join me on LinkedIn, and Telegram channel is also there. And Jaljit says, thanks for the time. Thank you so much, Jaljit. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. I will take your leave now. I will request all of you, let's connect on LinkedIn. And I will try to help you whenever you need help. And thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to Ayush also. Thanks.
Hello.